Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome to the Unnamed Fitness Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Sullivan.
And I am your other host, Megan Martz.
And I am reporting from Prague in the Czech Republic, and you are reporting from
Tampa, Florida.
And we both originate from
Detroit.
So today's topic, guess what it is? Travel and maintaining a solid fitness lifestyle when you're traveling.
And last episode, we talked about how to be flexible in your workouts at home. Now we're going to talk about how to take that on the road and keep going. Just keep going.
Do something, do anything. Like for me, when I'm here, because I bounce back and forth between the two places, what's great about here is I never have to worry about my steps here. Let me see real quick. Yeah, I've got 12,000 in right now, and I actually just had to run errands this morning. So that was it. I got 12,000 steps by just needing to go do things.
And over here in America, we have a total of 1,000 steps because I went downstairs to the hotel breakfast.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because I went down a flight of stairs. No, you didn't. You took
Not even.
Don't even lie.
Do you know what I hate about hotels? Like, well, I love hotels, but I hate how the elevator is like, here is the elevator. And the stairwell is like in the back corner in a dark alley. And I'm like,
and the whole staff is smoking outside the back door and it just goes up the corridor.
Yeah. And you're like, what? Yep. So, yeah. Anywho, I didn't even take the stairs today. I'm usually an avid stair person. And
no, because then you have to go all the way down to the end, go all the way up, all the way back to your room.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then they put the elevator right in the middle.
Yep. They're like,
yep. Mm-hmm.
So that's cool.
Mm-hmm. So I think we can both agree that bands are one of the greatest things in the world for traveling. Also, I would like to point out that I've recently started, so when I work with clients online, I have them get this band kit that you see behind me. It's one of the beginner programs that I do. We use them for all kinds of things. But I used to give them like a door anchor that you would like close in the door. But this like truck strap loop with a bunch of little anchors on it that you wrap around the door and tighten is $20. It is the best.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, because I was working with a client the other day, and the gap in the door was like a little bit bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And the anchor, this isn't the anchor, but like the anchor went in because I had her get the same thing, and I was like, "Is that gonna come out of the door?" And
yeah,
it didn't. It was fine, but like I was a little worried.
Yeah, if you go on my website at humanmovementmethod.com and you go to I made my equipment page public so that people can see the equipment. And most of it travels. The only thing that doesn't travel is the adjustable dumbbells. And in my case, I have them everywhere I go. And like when I came here, I ordered them in advance and they got here before I got here.
Mm-hmm. Do you have an Amazon list where people can?
It's on the equipment page. So if you go to the equipment page, it's just a bunch of buttons that take you to the Amazon link.
You should make an Amazon thing so you can get like money for that. I think that's a thing you can do.
Yeah, it is. I probably should one day, but you know.
One day. Anywho.
You're just adding another thing to manage to my list. And I'm like, if it's not automated, I do not want to do it. That is like my general attitude. And I would say the other big one is that just in general, just body weight, learning how to do body weight exercise.
Yes. And what I think is helpful to do before you leave, if you're able to plan out ahead, is start doing some of those body weight exercises at home. Because I think that when you show up at a new place with new like equipment you don't use that often, you don't know your schedule a lot of the times. Like you're like, I have a base schedule, but I don't know how much time it's going to take to do this or to get here or to meet with this person. And if you do some of those body weight exercises ahead of time, you already have it cleaned out. Or if you've done a circuit that's a body weight circuit already. So you're like, oh, I just did this last week. I have some space in the hotel. I can put a mat down and go for it.
I also recently read a book that I really liked, and it was talking about willpower. I'm probably going to do a review on it later. But one of the statements that was made in the book that I really liked was the idea that you should not plan to be your best self. You should actually plan to likely be your worst self. So if something's a priority, for example, like in trauma therapy and in like addiction recovery, they talk about HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. Like when we become one of those things, or God forbid, all of those things, we are not going to be our best selves. No. That's when people relapse. That's when people have trigger events. And those are the things that then fuel guilt and shame. And then it becomes this horrible cycle, right? So instead of being like, well, I'm going to get there and I'm going to go to the conference and I'm going to spend all day and then I'm going to work out afterward. No, you're not. You're going to go to the conference. You're not going to eat right because you're not on your regular schedule. You're not on your regular diet. You're doing everything in your power to try to be, quote, good. And then what's going to happen is you're going to wind up going out for drinks with people afterward. Yes, and then you're not going to do it. So instead of believing that you're going to be your best self, it's like set the alarm clock 30 minutes earlier, get up, get a good breakfast, or start your day with a workout. Maybe it's down in the hotel gym, maybe it's in your room, and then go eat breakfast. And then you can move on with your day knowing that everything else is just, nice. Same thing with like vacation. The later in the day it becomes, the less likely you are to do it.
100%. And I think that a lot of times, I think this goes for at-home situations as well, but thinking that we have to do it the perfect way. Like sometimes what it looks like in your head is not at all what actually happens. Sometimes, I know, wild, groundbreaking, but I think that we're like, to your point, like, we're going to do the thing and I'm going to do this. It's like, I got it. You're like super motivated. You're like feeling good because you're going on vacation or you're going on a trip and you're like, oh yeah. And so you have all this motivation. And then you get there and you're like, oh my God, nothing's going as planned. And instead of that, like to your point, like it doesn't have to line up in the perfect schedule. It's like, it might not look cool. It might not look or feel great at first, but like it will feel great if you get it in, if you get the workout in before you get to breakfast.
Right. Well, and also understanding that doing something's better than doing nothing. A lot of people sit in the position of being like, well, I didn't do the workout I was, quote, supposed to do. I can't remember what it is, but it's the idea that I can't remember how it goes. I know what I call it, but it's not appropriate for this podcast.
Is it the rebel mentality? Where
no,
it's rebel against yourself.
No, it's when you go, well, I didn't do what I was supposed to do, so I get a free pass to go and do whatever.
Oh.
I call that a bad case of the efforts.
Okay.
Yep. It's you're just like, you know what? Eff it. And like that's what I call it. In the book, it's called something else. But my colloquial Detroit dialect comes out, and I call it bad case of the efforts.
That's fair. I over like a tantrum, like almost like a child. It kind of feels like a child tantrum, where it's like you can't do the thing, and then you're gone.
Well, a great example of this was on the trip here. I was supposed to go from Detroit to Chicago. And then from Chicago to Frankfurt, and then from Frankfurt to Prague. That was the way it was supposed to go. There was some sort of an ice storm, and nothing went the way it was supposed to. On my way to the airport, I basically got dropped off at the airport for my flight. I got a text that said, your flight's canceled. It's 7 hours later, and you're not going to Chicago. You're going to Dulles. So, okay, fine. So I walk around DTW for a while. I found a cool organic food vending machine. Yeah.
On a side note, someone told me that they also saw those in the Michigan Science Center.
Yeah. Another one of my people said that they have them at their job, which is at I believe Cayman Chemical Company. So I mean, they're everywhere. I think it's I think the prices were good.
Yeah.
Compared to like $7,000 in Detroit, which is like $24 to like walk out the door with the same thing.
I've like paid $30 for like a full meal. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah, it's half that. So
Wow.
the anyway, really, really cool option. So I'm walking around DTW, getting my steps in.
Mhm.
And then ultimately what wound up happening was I went from there to Dulles. I went from Dulles to Frankfurt. I slept 3 hours on the Frankfurt plane, on the plane to Frankfurt. Then my flight got canceled 3 times in a row and rescheduled. And the last one, they said, well, it's 6 p.m. We're canceling your flight. We'll see you at 8:30 in the morning. So me and 1,000 of my best friends were walking around the Frankfurt terminal trying to figure out what to do. This is one of those moments where if you were trying to stick to a quote diet that required willpower,
Yeah.
everything is working against you. Everything about travel makes sticking to a new habit impossible. It feels like it took everything I had to essentially find like a salad and like basically a tube of sausages to like meet my basic requirements and some almonds. And I actually packed food that I took with me. And then, and like, but understand that I had to, with the food that I packed, I still had to survive like an extra day and a half past what I had. And I packed like 2,000 calories.
Dang.
So it was because I had taken pouches of nut butter. I had taken, they make these little sacks of olives. They are delicious.
I saw that you got that. I'm not
Mhm.
olives like that. But yeah, I support you.
Hey, I'm not doing it every day. I just like, I took some sausage sticks with me. I made some grain-free little
Aw.
gut bombs. Like I made my own stuff. Like I did the whole thing.
Yeah, I
But
usually trail mix. Trail mix, nuts. Yeah, those are my go-tos.
because the reality is you're in a scenario where everything's uncomfortable and you're going to start seeking basic pleasure-seeking behavior.
100%.
Yep.
And they all cost double.
Yep. And what's crazy is, so say you're in an already stressful situation, so your way of handling it is by eating cookies. Then you get an insulin spike and a crash, and now you are hungry and tired.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to go into this spiral instead of eating, for example, trail mix. You're going to be much better off.
100%. Yeah. So then you eventually got there after doing stretches in the airport.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. Yeah, you saw that post? I
Yeah.
100% was doing stuff in the airport and nobody cares.
Do you know what I do is like when I'm on a flight is I'll take my lacrosse ball because it's always my quads and my hips and I will literally start like rolling my quads with this lacrosse ball, especially anything over 2 hours.
Yep.
Have to. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, and not only that, but I normally carry most of what I own on my back when I do this. So like my back was like, I was basically walking for 3 days with like a 30-pound sack on my back the entire time. It was ridiculous.
That's wild. That's
yeah,
wild.
It was fun. Good times.
Yeah. I walked back and forth before my flight because I did not get my workout in the morning. And like, ugh. So I was like, okay, I'm going to pick the furthest restaurant on this side. Then I'm going to go the furthest way that way to get from my terminal. Cause I got there pretty early and I was like, okay, feeling good. But compared to you, that was like a tiny little sliver of the day.
Still not the worst trip I've ever been on.
Really?
Yeah. There was one time before I came here the first time last, 6 months ago or so.
Yeah.
I flew Frontier to go to San Diego, and it took 23 hours to get me to San Diego, and twice I landed in an airport I wasn't supposed to go to. Originally, I was supposed to go to Denver. We wound up in Las Vegas, and then we literally were coming back, and we were supposed to land in Detroit, and the clouds were so bad that, and again, it was one of those situations where they canceled the flight, rescheduled it, canceled the flight, rescheduled it. And we went to land, and it was so fog covered in Detroit that they didn't complete the landing, and they went to Chicago, and then doubled back.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we had to switch planes, and then we doubled back. So and not only that, here's the super fun, weird part about my trip to Las Vegas that was supposed to be Denver. While I was waiting in line there, a guy kept hovering around me, and eventually he wound up putting his arm around me.
Why?
I think he was on a lot of anti-anxiety meds to fly. And I think
You do. Did you?
I turned and I said sternly, but politely, "Get your hand off of me."
Oh my. Oh my God.
And what was weird was there was a couple times he was like hovering near me. I'm like, "Dude, what are you doing?" And he was like, sorry. Because I kind of thought he was trying to get into my bag originally.
Oh, that makes, yeah, I can see that.
Right. And so I'm like, what is going on with this guy? And then he's standing next to me and he just puts his arm around me.
You know, that
After 23 hours trying to get for a 3-hour trip, 4-hour trip, San Diego to Detroit, and all that, I was like, you know what, man? Frankfurt's not that bad. I got to stay in a pod hotel. It was great. I got to sleep.
Every time I have a situation where I think somebody's acting weird around me, I automatically go into this like my crump pose where like I have my arms out like this, then I like, dead stare. And like I'm like, so you must have been looking very friendly.
Oh, I wasn't feeling friendly. It was, but there's really, I mean, I've encountered some pretty weird stuff while traveling. So honestly, ice storm in Germany, as far as I was concerned, I had already crossed the ocean. The hard part was over. All I had to do, it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever done this. A lot of the time, if you get like a deal flight to Las Vegas, what'll happen is they'll fly you into Denver and then you take a little plane from Denver to Vegas. Super common.
Yeah.
It's the same here. You fly into Frankfurt, go through customs, and then they pop you over to Prague.
Yeah. And then it's easier that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So back to exercise and fitness routine.
Well, but the point is that I never fell off my quote. I don't have a diet.
Yeah.
This is the thing, is it doesn't, I was reading this book and they were talking about the willpower of dieting, and I'm like, I don't have this. Like, and it's the difference between some sort of external motivator, believing that I need to do something good for me, and being like, no, when I eat like that, I feel like garbage.
Yeah.
Like that's intrinsic. Like I look at certain things and I'm like, I'm not going to tell other people not to live their life the way they want to live their life. I don't believe in that principally.
Yeah.
But for me, when I do X, Y happens. And if I know that, I'm not going to do that.
100%. And helping people understand what that is for them is hard, because everything around you says this is what you should be doing. You should be doing this. And I think that when you start to realize that just because everybody's doing something, it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. It doesn't need to work for you. You can have your own routine. But I feel like when I talk to people about diet they've tried a lot of diets before, their initial reaction is like, I don't know, like I don't want to like try, like when I talk about nutrition coaching and then I explain my approach and they're like, oh, you're not gonna like make me go on a diet. I'm like, am I gonna make you go on a diet? Like, no, like I want you to keep doing this for the rest of your life. This is not like a quick like 1 month situation where I'm trying to get you to an end result. Like your end result is that you're gonna keep doing it.
Right. And that also means that you need to have enough skills and information to be able to do it when you're at a wedding. Like I don't, whatever events or whatever you wind up in, like I'm sure you've heard this, like when people, I have to go out and entertain for work. This is super common. So they like, I've had clients that are like, I have to, and I'm like, okay, so here's what you're going to do. You're not going to drink more than 3 drinks. And we're going to figure out something that you like. Like for me, when I drank, and I don't really anymore, but when I did, I really liked gin, club soda, and a lime.
Yep.
And I know that that's super common for people. Why did I pick gin? Because it's aromatic. Would I pick one that was and I would typically go higher shelf because they're processed better, they're filtered better, it's a better product, and you feel less like garbage afterwards. So now if you go with the rot gut well gin, you suffer your own consequences. Now there is generally, if you go to the store, here's my rule on liquor. If you go to the store and it costs between $30 and $50 a bottle, that's the one you want when you're at the bar. If it's more than that a bottle, you don't need that. If it's less, this isn't a great this isn't a perfect determiner, but the browner the alcohol gets, the higher quality you want of it. If it's clear, it's kind of a middle road. It doesn't really. If it's clear alcohol, you'll be fine.
Okay. So we should probably address, people are always asking me, they're like, well, like there's no calories in alcohol.
Not true.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think people will use that and be like, well, it's fine. Like I had this liquor with like sparkling water or like, so it was like nothing. Unfortunately, it's not nothing. It is something.
No, it's not nothing at all. In fact, your body processes alcohol exactly the same way it processes sugar.
That's usually what I tell people.
Which is why it's hilarious that they sell sugar-free stuff with sugar alcohol in it.
Yes.
Because your body still processes it exactly the same way. The only difference is if you eat too much, you get explosive diarrhea. That is the only difference.
So, but back to the point of like finding what works for you. Like, if you know, like, I think it's all like risk and reward, right? Where it's like, if you love drinking alcohol, limiting yourself, but knowing like what options to choose from. Like, I think I talked about this before, but I had a client who like loves beer, and she does entertain clients for work, and so but she was drinking like IPAs, and it's like those are like they're real heavy, and she was like looking for ways to like clean up her diet, and it was like that's a pretty significant hit if you take that out, and she did, and now she like has like 3 drinks or whatever when she's out. She makes choices that are lower on the sugar, and she feels so much better, less bloating, less inflammation. Like,
you want to know a secret?
That I probably
Guinness is a light beer.
It is. I know. No, I knew that.
You knew that?
Yeah, I did. Because I did know this. Because yeah, I know. I did know this. Yeah.
Guinness is a light beer.
So wild. Because
so good.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Here's the thing. As a person that went to culinary school, as I tell people, there's like 3 things I'm probably going to go to hell for. And it is definitely gluttony and wrath are high on the topic. When I get angry, I get real angry. And when I get hungry, I get real hungry. And I really like food. And sometimes I really like being angry. And when those 2 things go together and you're in your 20s, you're at the bar a lot. And so there's like, I love food. I love drinks. I love all that stuff. But the difference is I've reached a point in my life where I equate having it with what happens to me for like nearly 3 days afterwards. And it's not like I'm bedridden and it's excruciating. I just feel off and I don't like it. Yeah.
It's the same way that I feel about like smoking. Like, like any kind of weed situation, I'm like, does not make me feel good at all. So
that is unfortunate.
I hate it. I get paranoid.
See, the thing is that different things affect people differently.
Yeah. Yep.
I'll be, and you'll hear me say this I say it to clients, I'll say it publicly, I say it all the time. There is no universal biology. I don't care what anybody says. I can point to multiple studies that show there's no such thing as a typical spine. Not everyone's hips are perfectly aligned naturally. Like, you can actually have sockets that are just slightly, like, humans are not born perfect. You're not a machine. There's stuff you're going to have to accommodate for as you grow. It's just, that's part of the way it works.
You want to hear something funny about, so the reason I'm in Florida is for a dance program that I did this weekend. And it was a group of girls, and one of the girls, we were doing a little conversation, and one of the girls was like, do you think it's possible to just like have bad knees? And and the person who's running the program is not like a fitness professional, right? She's a dancer. And I'm there like being like, can I answer this? And then I was like, it actually mostly just has to do with, it could be your hips, it could be imbalance, it could be your ankles. And then I'm like going all in.
You're like in the corner, like rocking. You're like,
she was like, yeah, it was super cool. So she was like, yeah, oh yeah, like I'm not an expert, but like I was like, no.
Yeah.
And she was also like solid 10 years younger than me.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not how it works.
No. Yeah.
And
no.
then,
You're like, can you just point to where it hurts? Because where it hurts really determines what it could be.
I was like, you want me to look at your posture afterwards? She was like, and then like we're like the
collapsing instep, no glute activation. Yeah.
I actually didn't get to look at her posture, but by the end she was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just my posture. It's fine. And I'm like,
yeah, it's not. But okay, no problem. Keep dancing on that.
I know. Dancers are like, one of their favorite moves the dancers do is when they collapse their knees in.
Yeah.
Bounce out. And they bounce out. Yeah, good stuff.
So again, we'll go back to like maybe the first podcast we did or the second podcast we did where I said very clearly, higher performance does not mean higher degrees of health.
100%.
And again, there's certain things that you're going to have to deal with, like from years of martial arts. Both of my hips and shoulders just don't operate the same. And like, for example, because the shoulder, so the whole right side of my body's angry right now because of sleeping in an airport and no, my right hip and my right shoulder both. I mean, and I knew that they were both a little funky going into it, but after 3 straight days of travel and not being in ideal conditions and not getting to do my regular PT stuff, like, no, I guarantee you that like as a martial artist, the number of people that I worked with, all of us had like past the age of 30. It was super common. I knew guys that got hips replaced in their 40s. I knew one guy that he was a professional martial artist, Taekwondo. They do a lot of torquing on the knees. And he turned at work because he was a loader. He would load boxes on and off trucks. He turned at work, just turned with a box, and his knee just came apart. So you have to understand that, like, it's one of those things where, yeah, I mean, if you crank on that for 20 years, something's going to happen. And in my particular case, as I tell people, I'm a high mileage model. I've done a lot of things. And sometimes I've done it too intensely. And at other times when you play combat sports, when you do powerlifting, when you are a CrossFit competitor, when you do ultra marathons, when you have boxed, like, pick a thing. Like, you have to understand the body does heal itself, but that does not mean that you can do like, I wish I could write a book for the decades of life and training, because what you should be doing in your 20s and what you should be doing in your 40s are not the same thing.
No. I was at this dance program. I was sitting across from people who I was double their age. And they were telling me about, like, oh yeah, I did this. And then like the next day I just did it all over again. And I was like,
yeah. Oh my God. When my full-time martial arts schedule, I often worked 6 days a week. I would teach in a day between, let me think, on my long days, Tuesdays and Thursdays were my long day. I did 2 classes. I did 11:15 and noon. And then we started at 4:30 and ended at 9:30 at night. And I taught, that was just Tuesday, Thursday. And then Monday, Wednesday were shorter. We typically had Friday off, but if we didn't, we had an event. And then Saturdays were actually the longest days because we would start at like 8 a.m. And if we had a seminar or a long event, we would like finish at 3 or 4 p.m. And yes, I understand that normal people work normal jobs 40 hours a week, But if you are jumping, punching, kicking, and yelling for 40 hours a week, your hips, your shoulders, your back, and your heart don't love that.
No, they do build up. What word am I looking for? They build up and what word am I looking for? You get not accustomed to it, but you build up
conditioning. You're conditioned. Yeah. But the thing is, and this is the thing about unilateral sports of any kind. I don't care if you're playing tennis, hockey, baseball, basketball's not as unilateral. Like football's not as they're more gross motor movement oriented. Like they do throw, but it's a lot of basically running. So that's bilateral. But like when everything you do is fast on one side and hard on the other side, your whole body gets used to different mechanics. And you're split stanced when you do it. And I don't care if you switch up, your nervous system's wired to do certain things. And so, as a result, you carry that with you.
100%. It's actually similar to dance too, because so many people favor their right side. So when you're doing choreography over and over and over again, and you're doing like swing all on one side.
Yeah. And that's why we do the biomechanical work that we do, is to retune the body so we can do what we love. Right.
Yep.
And that's the thing.
Yeah. Like I notice a huge difference when I'm just doing barbell work for the week and I do not incorporate unilateral work. And I think it was last week, after I got done with the workout, it felt like my entire right side was very like burning. It was like burning, like everything, muscles are sore. It felt like my whole left side like didn't even do the workout.
Right. And that's the thing. That's why so much of what we do in the biomechanical method is unilateral, contralateral, and ipsilateral, because bilateral is great. You can, the value of bilateral is that you can load heavy.
Yep. And so just to clarify these terms for anybody who doesn't know, bilateral, both sides of the body. Lateral, one side of the body. Contralateral, opposite sides of the body. Ipsilateral, both sides. So like you're doing like same hand, same foot.
Yep. Contralateral's crossing.
Cross. Yep.
And then unilateral, is most of the time unilateral, like you said, kind of applies to like a step up is a unilateral movement.
Yeah.
Right? And then technically, let's say you do a farmer's step up. Like on one side, I call it a suitcase carry. So I'm loading on the same side as the leg that's stepping up. That would be ipsilateral because the shoulder and the hip are working together. If I loaded on the other side, it would be contralateral. Just as an example to
like dead bugs, dogs. Those are all contralateral.
All contralateral, which are, but then the reason they're always prescribed for these things is for hip and spinal and shoulder stability. And again, if we're talking about, and this is one of the values of the band system, and this is why it's great, because the thing is, what's great about bands is that they're mobile, they're cheap, they're low impact. And if you use the kind of training you and I use, you can get a lot of value out of them for stimulus of growth without putting the hard shearing forces on your joints, without doing. And the thing is that barbell works great when you're 20. Barbell works great when you're 30. But when you get past 35, you may not be going as hard at it as you thought. And I understand that there's people that can and do. We also live in a world where on social media, we don't really know what we're looking at. We don't know what kind of medical support people have. We don't know a lot of things. Yeah.
We don't know what injuries people are really dealing with. We don't know what's going on with the body. Yeah. And even as hard as I try to use my left and right side equally when I'm rowing, what I end up doing, you just don't. And because I have a pretty, I would say, above average mind-body connection. I'm a dancer. I teach people how to like get connected with their bodies. But like when you're rowing and you're doing the same movement over and over for a solid 5 minutes or longer, like what I end up doing is just trying to yank on one side, and it still doesn't even work. It still doesn't-
And if you're neurodivergent, you run in the direction of having natural muscular imbalances. You just do. Your nervous system works different. So it is common to get aches and pains as you age because you are having unilateral, ipsilateral, and contralateral imbalances. Well, the only way to get those out of your body, or even not even get them out of your body, but train in a way that it's not going to exacerbate them, which one of the things I used to watch when I powerlifting coached was when people would have a bar path that turned. So you see people sit into a squat and you'd watch the bar path twist as they sat into the squat. And then as they come up, it would twist back. I don't know if you know this, but if you put 200 or 300 pounds on your spine and have that happen over and over and over again, and you go, oh no, my back hurts.
I don't know why did that right there. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the result of hip impingement. It can be the result of poor ankle mobility on only one side. Like the number of things that can cause that bar path to tilt. And people think they're just going to mentally correct it. They think they're just going to will their way into it being corrected. And that's not what happens. And
just to say, there's some ailments that go on that you can actually like fix the correction by thinking about it. Yeah. But not all of them.
Not when you're on the last rep and you're at your maximum capacity. I don't care if we're talking about maximum intensity, the weight's at its highest, maximum repetitions. If you're going to failure, wherever your imbalances are, they're coming out because that's how you're built. That's how you're made. And the thing is, it's about tuning that. Like, and for example, like right now, I know if I started doing squats, I'm going to shade to the left because right now my right hip is sore. If my right hip's sore, anytime you're carrying around an imbalance or an injury to the point where it's affecting your mechanics, it's going to cause new issues. That's called the cumulative injury cycle. And it's not something you want to deal with. And so not everybody should be doing 50 military push-ups in a row. That's just not what everyone should be doing. That's why we modify things. That's why you work with a professional.
And that's why you learn to listen to your body and understand what's happening.
Right. And that's why we don't walk you through a workout. We teach you skills.
Yep. 100%.
And those skills you take with you everywhere you go.
Everywhere. Yes. Even when you travel and you're at hotel gym and they only have dumbbells.
You know, and that's my favorite thing. You know that you like if I've got bands and up to 25 or 50 pounds worth of dumbbells, I am good.
Yep. I was just saying how I went to the gym yesterday in the peak. Did we talk about this yet? No. In the peak of, it's a Monday after the New Year's at a commercial gym. Woo! Okay. Which I have not been to a commercial gym like that in a minute. Walk out. It's wild. There's people everywhere. And I walk over by the turf and there's a cable machine. So I have the cable machine and then there just happened to be a kettlebell and a step. And I was like, this is my workout. This is what we're doing. So they had the tricep pull down infinity row. I like low-key love that thing. And then so I did that. I did one-legged jumps because I'm trying to work on some agility stuff on the box. And then I just swung the kettlebell around because I'm still trying to figure out the kettlebell. But we're getting there. But you like minimal equipment, to my point, is that like if I tried to go walk around and find machines in that mess, you just kind of standing there. You can do a lot more with the kettlebell. And honestly, just turf and your body weight.
Yeah, one of the things that's great about being in the European scene is there is a heavy emphasis put on functional training. Huge. Bodybuilding is not as emphasized here.
Yeah, and I want to like break down this functional training situation because there's a lot of talk about how functional training kind of correlates to, it seems like, everything on the internet. And it's not like, let's be honest, some barbell work is not functional training. Like, it's not, right? Like, so I just want to put that out there that it is not universal. Like, I think
here's my question is, can you do it for 20 hours in a row?
Mm.
So this is an interesting question because when people talk about functional training,
Yeah.
functional for what?
Yeah.
So in my opinion, a human body is built to do, like, for example, some of the strongest people I have ever met in my life were bricklayers.
Oh yeah.
Okay. What do? They mix concrete, they move 50-pound
Yeah.
sacks, and they basically sling, 3-pound bricks all day long. Now, do that for 20. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Do that for 20, do it for 20 years, and you look like a rickety old man, like early in life. But the second one of those gnarly dudes puts their hands on you, you find out real fast that it's not about how much you can squat. It's about strength, pure strength. And strength comes from moderate, consistent, high volume exercise. And that's the reality. And so, yes, and I've said this many times to anyone that will listen, the gym in that regard is a liar. And the reason it's a liar is because everything in the gym is designed for you to use it. But when your buddy asks you to come over and move his refrigerator down a flight of stairs, you find out how strong you are really fast because there's no handle, nothing's built for you, there's no padded seat, and so it's always interesting to me how people equate strength. If you look at strength from a numbers perspective, it's very easy to equate strength. If you look at strength from a what can you and what can't you do perspective, those are really different things.
Yeah. So I had a client one time. She was telling me how she went home and she went to stay with her mom, and her mom had all these jugs of water like laid out on the floor. And she's like, Mom, why do you want me to stack those up for you? And she's like, no, you're gonna hurt your back. And my client goes, I deadlifted 100 pounds yesterday, so I think I'm good, thank you. And then walked over and like lifted them all up there. Yeah. Oh,
see, well, we talked about the origins of training episode, right? And I was like, well, I was a farm kid. Like, I didn't touch a weight early on in life. I dug ditches and carried rocks and chopped wood, and that's what I did. That's what I understood the world to be. And to me, I would much rather be able to still do all those things at 60 and 70 years old than still be able to squat 315 pounds.
Yeah.
For me, that's just me.
So I started by dancing. So dancing was first, right? Well, I played dancing was first. So it was like, how can I move my body in the coolest way possible? That's like essentially how it works, right? And what kind of like athletic thing can I do to like manipulate my body to then like be able to do this? And what that means is that like I'm working in weird angles. I'm working with my own body weight. I'm also like creating force on my own. So the difference, I think, is that like if you have to pick a physical thing up and move it, you have, like you're saying, like a very specific way to measure that strength. But if you have to exert force on your own without any equipment, that is a much harder mind-body connection process to go through. It also uses your brain way more. And so that kind of training is way different than just like pushing a thing.
Well, and to go back to the functional thing, is it's become like to me, like if you ask, go on the internet, scour the internet, it's going to say functional, squat, deadlift, chest press, overhead press, chest pull, overhead pull, twist, plank. That's your functional movement base, right? And if you ask me, it's sit, stand, walk, run, jog, climb, crawl, push, pull, throw. And when I say push and pull, I'm talking about a freaking cart. I'm not talking about push-ups and pull-ups. I'm talking about pick up or push on something, pull on something, because when we look at human movement, it's about gait function. It's not really about bilateral load.
And then also if you think about your example about like moving a couch up and down a stairs or something, like in order to do that, the hardest part about that process is that the angles, you have to figure out how it works, like how you can get the couch like around angles or down the stairs, making sure that you're catching it at the right angle. You're not like getting your hand caught in the wall, and all of those, like how your brain is connecting to the object to the force that you're putting on or resisting.
Well, and I was also going to say carry and throw. Those are the two highest level movement profiles for a human, in my opinion, are carrying and throwing. And if you watch strongman competitions, a lot of them are based on carrying and throwing.
Yeah. Yep.
So and odd objects.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's I mean, there are sports out there for it. Like a lot of people say that humans, you know, what makes a human is our thumbs. And I always tell people squirrels have thumbs. That has nothing to do with it. Like they do. If I had a squirrel steal my candy bar once, that's how I know they can do whatever they want. But what they can't do that humans can do is throw. We throw with incredible accuracy. And so that's something that, like, when we look at shoulder function, you know, overhead function's really important. Well, so is rotation. Yeah. And if you don't have that,
closing
it's
a door.
Problem. Yeah.
When I hurt my shoulder and my wrist, I couldn't like shut doors. I was like,
hurt your shoulder, and cut your food.
Yeah. No. I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah. No, you can't. You can't do that.
Yeah. You're literally stuck.
Yeah. You're just like choppy at the rest. Anyway, so basically, I think the argument that we're making is we went down the functional rabbit hole a bit. Maybe we should do a whole nother episode on that. But long story short is that if you look at it from the evolutionary biomechanics functionality perspective, you're actually never not in a gym. You're always walking somewhere. You're always jogging. You know, you always have the potential to jog. You're always carrying. There's lots of things that resemble climbing and crawling. There's lots of things that resemble pushing and pulling. You can literally just push and pull on things that don't move for half an hour, and it is the best whole body workout of your life.
I had a client one time because we had like limited equipment. I was like, you're gonna push into that wall at 90%.
Yep.
Yep, 100%.
Overcoming isometrics. They are awesome. She also like loved the exercise too. She was like, yeah, it lights you up. And just so we're clear, probably one of the strongest men in history, pound for pound, trained almost not solely but very heavily in overcoming isometrics, and that was Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was all of his curls and everything that he did was with a chain that he basically had a bar attached to, and he would just change the length of the chain. That's wild. Yeah, really cool stuff. So no, this idea that everything's got to be a product and you have to have it, like, now, if you're bodybuilding, I'll say this again, if your sole sport is bodybuilding, I totally respect that. And a gym is exactly what you need. But if you're not solely bodybuilding, there's a lot of options out there for you. Yeah. So essentially the moral of the story is that when you get to your hotel or your Airbnb or wherever you're going, just start picking up chairs, start picking up whatever objects you have around you. Yeah. Body weight, bear crawls. Everybody knows I love bear crawls. Yep. Bear crawl anywhere. Put down a towel, go for it. Yep. No problem. All right. Well, this has been another episode of Unnamed Fitness Podcast on the road. AKA Neurodivergent Fitness, which. Yep. AKA Neurodivergent Fitness. I hashtag that video yesterday. Did you? Nice. All right. Thank you, everyone.